Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the world of guitar today with a really interesting episode from Strum and Thrive, Beginner Guitar Lessons and Motivation.
Oh, yeah, I love that show.
Me too.
Yeah.
We're going to try to break it down and make it accessible, even if you've never even touched a guitar before. Yeah. So we'll be looking at the techniques, but also like the podcast has a lot of the motivational stuff.
Oh, yeah, which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be the hardest part, just getting started.
Oh, absolutely. You know, that feeling of like, can I even do this?
Yeah, exactly.
So this episode really tackles that. And it also jumps into a classic for beginners, the E minor chord.
Oh, yeah. E minor or M is a great place to start for a few reasons. It's pretty simple to play, only uses 2 fingers,
Okay.
and it's got a really rich sound.
Right.
Right away, you kind of feel like a rock star.
Uh-huh. I like that. So how do we actually play this magical M?
It's easier than you think.
Uh-huh.
So you take your index finger and you put it on the 2nd fret of the A string.
Okay.
And then you put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string.
Ooh.
Then you just strum all 6 strings.
Okay, so 2 fingers, 2nd fret, strum away.
Got it.
You got it.
What
Wow,
if it
so-
sounds kind of muffled, though, at first?
Oh, that's totally normal,
Oh.
especially when you're just starting.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The key is just to keep practicing. And they had this cool tip in the podcast where you practice switching back and forth between no chord and the M.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it helps you build those finger muscles. And, you know, later on when you're actually playing songs, it makes your transitions smoother.
Oh, that makes sense. It's like a warm-up for your fingers, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're warming up. But speaking of marathons, the idea of practicing for hours can be so daunting.
Yeah, for sure.
What do they recommend in the episode for beginners?
So they actually say you should focus on short, consistent practice.
Okay,
Like they say 5 minutes a day, focusing on quality over quantity.
really, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It seems kind of short to make any progress.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a common thing to think you need to do like hours and hours.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's more about building that habit
Mhm.
than like cramming in a ton of practice,
Uh-huh.
like working out a muscle. Right. Consistent smaller efforts end up helping you improve more sustainably over time.
So it's more like slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
Not burning yourself out right away.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole idea of taking small steps, it really ties into the whole progress over perfection message.
Yeah, I noticed that too. They really emphasize that.
Yeah. It's not about being like the next Jimi Hendrix immediately.
Right.
It's about celebrating all those little wins you have.
Definitely. But let's be honest. We all need a little extra motivation sometimes.
Yeah.
What kind of motivational boost does the episode give?
Well, they talk about Ed Sheeran.
Oh, cool.
You know how he learned guitar from YouTube videos?
Yeah.
And he ended up a huge star.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the point is even the greats started somewhere, using resources that anyone can access.
That's really encouraging.
Yeah, you don't need some fancy equipment or expensive lessons to get started.
Passion and dedication.
Exactly. And a good internet connection.
Uh-huh. Right? And they even gave a shout out to a new listener in the episode who just bought their first guitar.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a nice reminder of that community aspect, which can be so important, especially when you're a beginner.
Totally. So we've got the M chord down, a practice plan that won't overwhelm us, and some inspiration from Ed Sheeran.
That's a great start. But they also talk about some deeper motivations for learning guitar.
Oh, yeah. It's more than just the chords, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But we'll unpack that after a quick break. It's more than just the chords, right?
Yeah, it goes deeper than that.
Like, what kind of things do they talk about?
So they talk about connecting with something bigger, like the joy of just creating music or the satisfaction of learning something new,
Right.
or maybe even like fulfilling a lifelong dream.
Yeah, I remember they asked listeners to think about the song they dream of playing
Yes.
and use that as motivation to keep practicing.
That's such a cool idea. It's
Right.
like having that goal in mind, you know, that dream song you're working towards. It just makes the whole process so much more meaningful.
It's like having a destination on a road trip or something.
Exactly. Gives
Yeah.
you that sense of purpose.
Okay, so back to the practicing for a sec.
Okay.
5 minutes a day. Do you think that's really enough?
I mean, obviously, as you get better, putting in more time is going to help.
Yeah.
But especially when you're starting out, consistency is key.
Oh,
It's like building a muscle, you know? Regular shorter workouts are often better than those crazy intense ones every once in a while.
so it's all about building that habit.
Yes. Showing up even when you don't feel like it.
I can see how that would pay off over time.
It totally does. In 5 minutes, it's not so intimidating.
Right.
It's like a good starting point.
Yeah, for sure. 5 minutes, I can do that. But what about those times when you just hit a wall?
Ah,
You just can't seem to get a certain chord or the rhythm feels totally off.
That's gonna happen.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Everyone goes through that, even, like, really experienced musicians.
Okay, good to know. I'm not alone.
Yeah, they talked about that in the episode. It's normal to have setbacks. It's part of the process.
Okay, so it's not just me being a total beginner.
Nope. Remember the Ed Sheeran story? He had to start somewhere, too.
True. That's encouraging, I guess. Even the pros had to work through it.
Exactly. So instead of looking at setbacks as, like, failures,
Yeah,
try to see them as chances to learn and get better.
I like that. It's all about the perspective.
Right. So how do you push through those tough moments?
Yeah. What do they say in the episode?
Well, they don't get into any specific techniques,
Okay.
but they emphasize that perseverance is key.
Okay, so just keep going, even when it's hard.
Yeah. You know, it's like they say, the only way out is through.
I've heard that.
And the more you practice, the more you learn, and
Yeah.
you start getting those little wins,
Mhm.
and that just keeps you motivated to keep going.
It's a cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this huge effort every time. Just pick up the guitar and
Ah.
start strumming.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just do it. Don't
Yeah.
wait for inspiration to strike.
That's it. And remember that community aspect we talked about.
Yeah.
Connecting with other guitarists online or in person.
Yeah.
It can really help when you're feeling stuck.
It's like having a support system.
Exactly. People who get what you're going through.
Okay, so we've got the mindset, we've got the practice down. Now, what about resources?
Oh, that's a good one.
Where can people go to find more guidance?
Well, luckily, we live in a time where there are so many resources out there.
Sure.
They talked about that in the episode, like online tutorials, video lessons, apps, even virtual communities.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff,
Yeah,
and a lot of it's free.
exactly. So much knowledge is available.
It's kind of amazing. It's like Ed Sheeran learning from YouTube.
Right. You don't need those super expensive private lessons.
No, okay, but how do you even know where to start with all these choices?
Good question. They talk about that too. It's not just about finding resources,
Hmm.
but finding ones that work for you and your goals.
Okay, so like some people might do well with a structured online course, while others might be more into just like exploring free tutorials.
Yeah. You got to find what keeps you engaged and motivated.
It's like having your own personalized guitar coach.
Right. In your pocket.
Okay, so let's say I'm feeling lost. Where do I even begin?
Well, a good place to start is to think about what kind of music you like.
Okay,
Like, what do you want to play? What artists are you into?
yeah, that makes sense.
Once you have a direction, you can look for resources that fit that style.
Okay,
So, like, if you're a rock fan, you might want to look for power chord tutorials or classic rock riffs.
right.
If you're more into folk music, maybe focus on finger picking and folk song arrangements.
Cool. So tailor it to your taste.
Exactly.
And I bet there are like online communities too, where you can connect with other guitarists who are into the same stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Online forums, social media groups, even those dedicated guitar learning platforms. It's a
Mhm.
great way to connect with people, ask questions, share tips, get inspired.
It's like having that built-in support system.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're first starting out, it can be so helpful.
For sure. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Wait.
what would you say is the biggest takeaway for anyone who's feeling inspired to pick up a guitar?
I think it's that learning guitar. It's tough, but it's also super rewarding.
Yeah.
It's about finding that joy in the process, you
Mhm.
know, celebrating the small wins and never losing sight of the music that drives you.
That's a great way to put it. And I love how they ended the episode. They said, keep strumming, keep smiling, and keep thriving.
Oh, yeah. That's perfect. It really sums up this whole deep dive.
It does. It's not just about the chords. It's about that passion and that
Yeah.
journey and connecting with something bigger.
Absolutely.
So to everyone listening who's ready to start strumming, remember, everyone starts somewhere. Find those resources that work for you. Connect with other learners. Embrace the challenges. And most importantly, have fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this Guitar Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for more explorations.